Welcome everybody to First Congregational Church, Transgender Day of Remembrance 2014. It's an honor to have you all come, and I wanted to open the evening real quick by reading to you what the President Obama and the White House released this morning for Transgender Day of Remembrance. I thought this was really, really good. It says, today, November 20th, 2014, we observe National Transgender Day of Remembrance as a solemn occasion to honor those who have lost their lives or experienced violence because of their gender identity or gender expression. We honor those who continue to experience violence and recommit to changing hearts and minds in order that all people are free from discrimination, hatred, and violence, including transgender people. Here at the White House, President Obama and the administration are committed to continuing to support transgender Americans and protecting their rights from harm and oppression. This year marked the 5-year anniversary of President Obama signing the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act, critical civil rights legislation that have since expanded federal hate crime protections to include gender identity, disability, and sexual orientation. At the recognition of the 5th anniversary of the Shepard-Byrd Act, we highlighted the fact that never before had gender identity or gender expression been included under federal protections against hate crimes. More importantly, we recognize the heroic leadership of transgender people across the country who made this federal inclusion possible and who bravely work to implement the law through education of communities and law enforcement officials across the country. We recognized Mara Kessling, a prominent leader in the transgender community, for her work towards securing equal protection under the law for transgender Americans. We also heard from Kylar Braudas on the continuing challenges in the way of preventing hate crimes and his unique perspective experiencing discrimination based on gender identity plus race, reminding us of the need to address the intersectionality of these issues as we work together to prevent and respond to the violent hate crimes more efficiently. Across President Obama's administration, agencies are taking steps to expand equality for transgender Americans. The Department of Health and Human Services overturned the exclusion of Medicare for transition-related care. The U.S. Department of Education issued guidelines clarifying that Title IX's existing sex discrimination prohibition includes gender identity or failure to conform to stereotypical notions of masculinity or femininity. The U.S. Department of Justice issued firm implementing guidelines for the first ever non-discrimination provisions of the Violence Against Women Act, reauthorization, providing clear guidelines prohibiting anti-LGBT discrimination under federal law. The continued commitment by President Obama and the administration is a reflection of the unwavering and courageous leadership of the transgender community, whose lives are often in jeopardy as they come out or simply live their lives. Today, we stand proud of the work we've done as a community, but reaffirm that much work remains so that the countless innocent lives were not lost in vain. Together, we can continue to make that difference. And then I wanted to say that leading up to something that happened right here in the city on Monday night, City Hall through the Human Relations Commission presented me on behalf of the entire LGBT community this proclamation. And there's going to be one minor change to it. It was dated for the 20th of November, which is today, but because it includes LGBT people, we're shifting it to the 21st so that, a lot of people were upset that we put it on the 20th. So we thought, well, okay, we'll move it a day. So the LGBT community here in Riverside stands next to the transgender community at large and in support of. So anyway, this proclamation says, whereas LGBT Day of Remembrance is the first recognized inclusive day of remembrance for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender victims of bullying, harassment, and hate crimes of all ages in the city of Riverside, California. And whereas LGBT Day of Remembrance will occur annually on the 20th of November, that's going to be changed to the 21st, will occur on the 21st, that's right, to memorialize those who have been victims of violence, bullying, discrimination, homophobia and transphobia, hatred and fear towards gender nonconforming people, and violent acts towards youth and adults perceived to be sexual and gender minorities. And whereas the City of Riverside will uphold its founders' belief that Riverside will be an inclusive utopia, the City of Riverside will support its local LGBT leadership and residents in their continued efforts to recognize and acknowledge its LGBT residents, to eradicate violence against the LGBT community, and to improve the standard of living and services offered to LGBT residents. And whereas the City of Riverside will support the implementation of LGBT and community inclusive activities to be held throughout the third week of November every year in concurrence with LGBT Day of Remembrance, to celebrate the LGBT community and to educate residents of LGBT supportive services within the City of Riverside and its surrounding areas. Now, therefore, I, William R. Bailey III, Mayor of the City of Riverside, California, do hereby proclaim November 21st, 2014 as LGBT Day of Remembrance for victims of bullying and harassment. And on behalf of the City Council, recognize the LGBT community and their right to peace, respect, life, equality, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness within the City of Riverside. Dated this, it's going to be 21st day of November 2014. And there's a signature and the city seal. That's just, yeah. Okay, so now I've spoken enough. I think I'm going to introduce Jaden Hanslick, who's a transgender youth advocate. He's associated with PFLAG in Temecula. And take it away.
Good evening. As she said, I'm a transgender man. I'm 18 years old and I've been transitioning for 2 years. I'm just going to do a little bit of poetry. So here it goes. On October 11, 2011, I wrote in my journal, "If this is life, then I do not want to live. I have no identity. I have no reason to live. I just want to die." As I read these words back to myself with a knot in my throat, a brick in my stomach, and nothing in my mind, I felt pain rushing back. This pain is so common among the transgender community. I just want to die. It runs in our head as if it's in a marathon, consuming any hope of survival, making us question our place in this world. Our mirror is our worst nightmare. It's a constant reminder of the person we were born as, not the person we were meant to be. So why am I writing this? I am the voice of thousands of transgender youth who have been beaten so far down that they have been beaten into a casket 6 feet underground. Their voice is muted by a world so hateful. Every cut on their wrist, every burn on their arm, every scratch that I have ever done is a comment we've internalized. You're not normal, cut. You're going to hell, cut. You don't deserve to live, cut. It seems so harmless, the words being spoken about us, but after time, these cuts add up. It starts with 1, 2, 3. It ends in 50, 60, and 70. Soon, this lifestyle consumes us. It's our only source of release. It's our only source of friendship, and it's our only source of acceptance. Too scared to be excommunicated by our families, we hide. We hide the pain, the sorrow, the sadness in which we've been conflicted with that consumes our lives. One by one, we've been knocked down like flies and been swept under the rug, left to die. Our voices may be muted, but our legacy lives on, not through the bodies we've once lived in, but through the hearts of our loved ones. Through the hearts of you all standing before me. We may have not known all the trans people who have passed on, but we know the pain of what it's like to lose one. The regret, the beating yourself up because of what you could have or what you should have done. We cannot change how we acted in the past, but we can definitely be the change of what happens in the future. The LGBT community needs allies like you, parents, friends, aunts, uncles, grandparents, grandmas, and grandpas to say that they're there, that they love us. In our darkest times, to keep our heads up when we've held it low for so long, and to come to rallies like these to show that you care. Care for our safety, care for us as people, and care about our lives. With your help, we won't become just another statistic of death, but the number of people that say that we made it. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to introduce Anna Tower. Her partner Noelle committed suicide in April of 2013, and she's going to transgender partner, and she's going to tell about her experiences with that.
Good evening. In a study done by the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force and National Center for Transgender Equality, they found that the rate of suicide attempts in the general U.S. adult population is about 4.6%. In transgender people, the attempted suicide rate is 41%. Let's have that sink in for a second. 4.16 for the adult population in general, and transgendered, it's 41%. This isn't a story about someone who is transgendered. This is a story about love. A love that changed my life and many others. I had the privilege of meeting Noelle Vin, a 3D character artist who uprooted her life from Florida to California to make the challenging journey of transitioning. She was incredibly intelligent, beautiful, shy, and very compassionate. Just like all of us, she wanted to try to find the right path through life, and she left this earth at the age of 29, unfortunately by her own hands, on April 16, 2013. The days prior and the days afterwards have been etched in my mind forever. I cannot change the outcome of what has happened, but my hope is to maybe change the outcome of someone else's life. As the days go by, there's a fear that I'll forget the smell of her perfume as she laid her head on my shoulder, the feel of her hand entwined with mine, the soft touch of her kiss, the sound of her heartbeat as it raced with mine, her black flowing hair that grazed my fingertips as I stroked her head as she fell asleep in my arms, her smile that always brightened my day. And when we first gazed into each other's eyes, I couldn't take my eyes off her because she radiated so much beauty. Those hazel eyes pierced through into my soul and our connection became stronger. Never thought I could fall for someone with just one glance. She gave me a reason to live. A love that I never knew existed because she loved every aspect of who I am. And I did the same. The moments that we share, I cherished. The everyday conversations, whether crying to one another or sharing laughs about everything. She gave me some of the best moments in my life. There were times in our conversations that I knew there was a darkness lingering behind every word. I tried to let her open herself up to me and reassured her that things would be okay if she would just let the emotions out. In the time we had met, she had already made up her mind and she had given up. I wasn't able to get her in time to show her how beautiful she was to me and how much I loved her. I may have prolonged the inevitable for just a few months, but those months will forever be special to me because she chose to spend those precious moments with me. No one truly realizes the effects of suicide it can have on those who love them. In the moment of darkness, all one thinks about is the pain they feel, and it consumes everything. I've realized that not only does suicide affect family, friends, and lovers, but it also affects others around those who are dealing with it. I've seen the pain in my best friend's eyes, the feeling of helplessness in those around me because they have no clue how to help. There's never a certain amount of time that someone grieves. Everyone does it in their own time. It has been 1 year and 7 months since Noelle left, and I still have those days where I don't want to get out of bed. Moments of uncertainty if this is reality. As time passes, I wouldn't say it gets easier, but the pain is still there, masked by everyday life. I will always carry a part of her with me. She has given me a different outlook on life. She gave me so much in such a short amount of time that I am forever grateful. I must learn how to live beyond this. I will never be the same person I once was before. Slowly shaping into the person I'm supposed to be, grasp the harsh reality that death is a part of life, and in death there can be beauty. I found those beautiful moments, and I cherish those every day. If not for Noelle, I wouldn't be here stronger and being able to talk about a pivotal moment in my life. She gave me the courage to be who I am and told me to pursue my passions in life. And I've kept those promises I made to her, and I thank her every day for that little push that I needed. If there's one thing I could convey to those who harbor suicidal ideation, it would be there are people who will love you for you. They will look past all your faults and see who you are and be proud to be a part of your life, even through the ups and downs. If by me sharing the story helps one person, then I'll be happy to continue to do so. It is unfortunate that some feel as if they cannot be here anymore. And in order to put a stop to this, we must educate, communicate, and share stories with others. Fight for those who no longer are here to fight the battle. It is not too much to ask for equality. We are all human and need help every now and then. No one should be ever turned away when they're trying to seek help. And something must change, and that change needs to happen now. Thank you.
And thank you for that. That's very moving. Now I'd like to introduce Christy Hanslick. She's the president of PFLAG Temecula and is one of the greatest trans allies I know in the area. And that's her son is Jaden. And
Thank you, Eva. Good evening. Like Eva said, my name is Christy Hanslick, and I am the PFLAG president of our local chapter in Temecula, and I am also the mom of a transgender son. My son Jaden came out 2 years ago. It's a day I'll never forget. We were coming home from a PFLAG meeting, and my then daughter told me she had something that she wanted to tell my husband and I. We thought it was just something that happened at PFLAG, so we weren't really prepared for the words that would follow. I'm a boy. I'm transgender. All the rumors, all the preconceived notions of what transgender meant to me in my uneducated mind, all went out the window. In that instant, listening to my child say those words, I needed to know more. I talked with my son to understand what he was feeling, but I also did a lot of online research of my own. What I found was horrific. In 32 states, you can still be fired for being transgender. For cisgender people, meaning people who are not transgender, the chances of being murdered in our lifetime is 1 in 18,000. For transgender, it is 1 in 12. 41% of transgender people have attempted suicide, and the average lifespan of a transgender person is just 23 years old. As a new mom to a transgender child, I was terrified. My world had been transformed overnight, and this dark cloud of statistics just hung over me. One day I had hopes and dreams for my son, and the next day I was fearing for his life. I thought about his future, and it started looking more and more grim. So I kept searching for something positive that would tell me something about his future. Then in the midst of all this doom and gloom, there was a small paragraph that said, studies also showed that suicide attempts were less common among transgender people whose family ties stayed intact after they came out. And there it was, right there in black and white, a way to protect my son and a starting point to help him in his transition. All I needed to do was love him. From that point on, I was on a mission to save my son's life and save him from becoming another statistic, and to make sure he knew from the moment he woke up in the morning to the time he put his head on his pillow that he was loved no matter what. I committed to stand by him, to help him feel that his life had value, to show him that differences in people is what makes them awesome, that those differences should be embraced, not discouraged, and most importantly, that what people thought of him was none of his business. Unfortunately, my love and acceptance for my son is a minority. Many of you sitting in the audience know this. Some of you have seen the devastation that lack of acceptance and rejection can cause. Many of you have had personal experiences of family not being supportive. Some of you have probably tried taking your life at one point or another. And many of you are here today to support someone who succeeded in ending their life or had been killed for being who they are. I am here today to remember our brothers and sisters who are no longer here with us, to share stories so that we don't forget them, and to honor their lives because they had value. December 6, 2013, Betty Skinner was 52 and disabled. She was a resident of a senior residential complex in Cleveland, Ohio. Skinner's fellow residents in the complex described her as friendly, nice, and outgoing. She was found dead in her bed with massive head injuries. Brittany Sturgis was just 22 years old when she was found dead in her car from a gunshot wound. She was killed a day before Betty Skinner in Cleveland, Ohio. Police are unable to formally classify the slaying of Betty Skinner and Brittany Sturgis as a hate crime because in Ohio, the law does not include sexual orientation or gender identity in its hate crime laws. June 3rd, 2014, Candy Hall, 41 years old. Her friend said this about Candy. She was a very fun-loving, caring person. She just enjoyed life. She lived life to the fullest because I guess in her mindset, tomorrow was not promised, and so she wasn't going to wait until tomorrow when she could do it today. The body of Candy Hall was found brutally murdered in a field in Baltimore, Maryland. June 23rd, 2014, 31-year-old Yasmin Sanchez. Her aunt said that she was always a happy person and full of life, and she didn't deserve to go out like that. The body of Yasmin was found behind a budget truck rental in Fort Myers, Florida. She was burned to death. June 30th, 2014, Tiffany Edwards was 28. She was gunned down in the middle of the street in Cincinnati, Ohio. She was found by a sanitation worker. Her murderer is intending to use a transphobic defense, which means that the victim is blamed for their own death. October 4th, 2014, Anaya Parker was just shy of her 47th birthday. Friends described her as someone as having a heart of gold, befriending everybody and a good heart, a giver with a sense of humor. Anaya could always make you laugh, even when she wasn't trying. Anaya was shot in the head in a Los Angeles street after running away from a group of men and later died in the hospital. June 12th, 2014. Zoraida Reyes's body was discovered behind a Dairy Queen in Anaheim, California. Her friend told the LA Times, "For many, the lives of transgender people don't matter and are viewed as disposable." Disposable. Professor Max Silverman is renowned for his work on trauma, memory, race, and violence. For Silverman, disposable lives does not simply refer to the killing of people. It is about stripping away everything that constitutes a person's humanity. We are here today because of both of those things. We are here today because there are some people in society that cannot embrace the differences in people. They don't find value in life. They find it disposable. I would bet that most people have never sat down and just talked to a transgender person to see what it's all about. They have never listened to the pain of them living in their body, being chastised, trying to live comfortably in their own skin, and being killed one by one for being who they are. It's time to end the cycle of abuse. It's time to stand up for our transgender brothers and sisters. It is time that we recognize that we are all different in our own way, and there is no right or wrong to be different, and that's what makes life so incredibly beautiful. Some people are gray at 42. Some people go bald. My son was born with a vagina. I dream of a day when we can end Transgender Day of Remembrance and have a Transgender Day of celebration, where we don't have to remember those that have died, but celebrate the ones who have lived. And that day is coming. Laws are being changed in our favor. Schools are becoming much more inclusive, and there's a lot more information on the internet in just 2 years. We are gaining new allies every day. I am looking out at all of you and thinking how lucky we are to have all these allies. My family and I all have keychains from the Human Rights Campaign with the equality symbol. When I'm out and about, I hold my keys in such a way that people will see it. I do this because it lets people know that I am an ally. I am a safe space. If they're in trouble, they know I am a safe person to go to. There was a time when I wondered if I was a good ally. When my son Jaden came out as transgender, it was very confusing to me. I felt like I no longer knew my own child. I wasn't even sure if I loved him, and sometimes I was embarrassed to be around him. And I asked myself, did that make me a bad ally for the transgender community? In my opinion, the answer to that is no, and let me tell you why. Because even though I had those feelings in the beginning, I stayed. I listened. And when I didn't understand, I asked questions, and then I listened even more. To be a good ally, you don't have to lose someone. You don't even have to know them personally, and you certainly don't have to understand everything that they're going through. You just need to be present. You need to listen. You need to give people the opportunity to help you look past your own biases and opinions. You don't need to lose somebody to know that life is very precious. You don't need to know someone personally to smile and give them a compliment. And most importantly, you don't need to understand to love. Being an ally means being part of a solution, not the problem. Listening without judgment, loving without conditions, and accepting and embracing the differences in other people. In closing, I want to thank the allies for their strength to stand up and support our transgender friends and family, even though we may sometimes be chastised and criticized for doing so. We need to be a voice even when it is difficult. We need to fight for justice and pass laws that will create equality for all. It is through an open mind and gracious heart that we will counter those who oppose us. I would also like to give my heartfelt condolences to the friends and families who have lost a transgendered loved one. May they rest in peace and their death be for naught. Let us learn from the atrocities that they went through in life and in death, and let us, their biggest fans, never forget them and honor them, for that's what today is all about.
In past years, we just had one event here. On Sunday, we had, in remembrance of Transgender Day of Remembrance, we'd have a few speakers, and then we'd have the candlelight vigil. But last year, after Transgender Day of Remembrance, somebody who had attended every year, a lady named Julie Serrano, and I don't see her here tonight, but she came up to me afterwards and says, "Can I help you do this in the future?" And because it's been really hard to find people to work with to help get these going. So it was basically just me putting on everything and organizing it. With 1 year, when my partner died, I had the help of Shelly Ann Ulrich, that's right. And you know, she lined up the speakers for me because I was a basket case at the time. But it was just just a handful of people. And so Julie came up, and she's this really energetic person who's she's like a cheerleader. And you can ask her to do anything, and she'll jump in and do it. And so with her help, we put together what was called the Riverside Transgender Awareness Coalition. And we've had a few other people come to help us, and we've joined forces. I mean, you can see on some of our flyers, for the first couple of years, we just had EQIE on there. And then last year, we added 2 or 3 others. And now we've got all sorts of allies, all sorts of supporters in the community, all sorts of people starting to work together for transgender awareness in the city. And, I have to give credit where it's due. That last Transgender Day of Remembrance, I was ready to give up. I just was worn out, and, I had lost Ken, and I was just, kind of in a mess. And, it was her enthusiasm that kind of fired me back up and said, okay, well, if we can line up a couple more people, why don't we start a coalition and start putting together a week of events? You think we could do that? And she's like, yeah, we can do it. And she started pulling people in that she knew. And recently at the Unity Center where she worships, Reverend Rizzy Tamain was a guest speaker there. And I guess I wish I could have seen it, but she ran up and right after the service said, hey, can you come and do this Transgender Day of Remembrance? And she buttonholed him right there on the spot and got him lined up. And so I would like to introduce Reverend Rizzy Tamain, and I'm so happy to have him here. He's a recording artist, a minister with a worldwide ministry. His credentials are amazing.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to share with you a little bit about my story. I was born in northern Nigeria in West Africa to fundamentalist Christian parents whose parents were also preachers on both sides. And from a very young age, I knew that I was different, probably between 6 to 7. When I was 8 years old, I walked into my dad's bedroom and I said, Daddy, I'm a boy. I was convinced that I had figured out what was going on with me. Of course, at that time, my dad said it was just a phase. All children go through phases. You will outgrow it. Eventually, as I didn't outgrow that phase, we started to have problems. They began, my parents, to have exorcisms. The one that I remember most vividly was when I was 12 years old, and my mom brought the church elders to the house. They had me kneel in the middle of them all, and they began to pray. Someone put a Bible on my head, someone was splashing the holy water, and they were shouting for the demons to come out, the demons of, at the time, being a lesbian, because I had, same-sex attractions, in addition to my gender issues. From there on, it was just a roller coaster ride of me trying to convince them that nothing was wrong with me, that I was a God-loving child, because I really do, I love Jesus, and that I wasn't demon-possessed. It was very difficult. Eventually, it got to the point where I simply had to leave. I was studying in England at the time, so I was at least a little bit better than the persecution in Nigeria, because that's way, way tougher. There's cultural problems, religious problems. And London, at least there was a gay community that I could hang out in. But one day there again, my mom came, surprised me, and said, I've come to take you back home to Nigeria. We're going to get you married off to a man so we can end all of this madness. I was scared, I was traumatized. I spoke with my school. They got me an American visa. I got to the United States and I never left. That was my escape. I landed here, lost, alone, rejected, dejected, feeling disowned, feeling lost. This is all too familiar for LGBT people. And what comes next when you're feeling such low self-esteem and self-loathing? The drugs, the alcohol, the bad friends, the bad company. I did all of that, horrible relationships, and ended up suicidal. I did make an attempt to end my own life. But thankfully, I was not successful, and I'm grateful to be here today to share this story and this experience to hopefully help other people. But today, the key part of the journey that I have had with my family that I want us to all take away is that there is hope. There is hope. Hope that people can change. As horrible as that entire journey with my family was, a situation occurred that led us to have to look at each other outside of religion and what we think the Bible says or doesn't say, but to just look at each other as human beings. My dad was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it was at such a late stage that on the plane they were afraid he wouldn't survive. The cancer erupted, the tumor erupted, and he was in such extreme pain. And he was flown to London to have immediate emergency surgery. I immediately flew out with my wife to go and be by his side, to offer my support and my unconditional love to him. At this time, I hadn't really spoken with them for maybe 7 months because I had decided to transition. I mean, we already had problems when I came out as a lesbian. Now I said, I'm taking the plunge. I'm going to do this and be my authentic self. So at that time, we stopped talking again. It was probably 7, 8 months. And I got there thinking all these thoughts. What will my dad say? Will he accept me? Will he ask me to leave? If he died today, would we not be speaking? What is going to happen when I get there? And I got there, and when my wife and I walked through the door, my dad looked up and saw us. He shed tears of joy. Tears of joy because his child, not his daughter, his son, male, female, gender, whatever, his child, this loving soul had come all the way, 11 or 12 hours flight overnight, just like that, to see him, in spite of all the rejection, in spite of everything that had gone wrong. And eventually he made it. He came through from the hospital. He was discharged. My wife came back home to take care of things. I stayed to continue to care for my dad for about a month or more in London, put everything in hold, and was there for him, cleaning after him, helping him bathe because the surgery was so intense. And one day, as I was cleaning, just, putting clothes away, I would cook his food. He is diabetic, so he also has a very strict diet, and his food had to be cooked very carefully. I did all these things, and one day I was walking around just putting things away, and I saw him, he called me, he said, come over, and I came over. He looked, funny in the eye, and I thought, oh, maybe his blood sugar is low or something is going on with his diabetes. He said, sit down right here. So I sat down. And my dad said to me, I am sorry for everything that your mom and I put you through. I am sorry that we didn't understand. I am sorry that we didn't see you. You are a good person. You are a loving person. You are obviously a child of God. And I'm sorry for all these years. Give me time to start saying he instead of she and using the right pronouns with you. We will never again have any problems over your gender nonconformity or anything else. And from that day on, we are in just a perfect, blissful relationship. They came over in March. We went to Hawaii together. They acknowledged my wife as my wife. They acknowledged me as their son. And it just fills me with joy to know that change is possible. If people like my parents, African, homophobic, transphobic, hyper-religious, culturally induced people, could wake up and see humanity and embrace it, then there is hope. There is hope for every LGBT person in this world that change can come. People watch you, and all you have to do is be yourself and be a light. Be filled with Jesus to the point that the fruits of the Spirit, love and patience and kindness, they're just shining out of you. And as you're walking around doing your business, doing whatever it is that you're doing, the joy of the Lord surrounds you. The light of God embraces you. The peace of God is on you. There is something about you that will make it be the case that when someone's religious thinking, wrong religious thinking, says that person is a sinner because they're different from me, that person is going to hell because they're different from me, that person has to be possessed by demons, they have to be these evil, sinister people, they're going to look up at you, and then they're going to look down at whatever book or doctrine they think is saying this, and they're going to have that conflict. The conflict that results in you questioning your belief system, questioning what you've thought all this time to be true. And when you question it, you can evolve. It can evolve. You can see that God does love people that are different from me. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I shouldn't be judging who God loves or doesn't love. Maybe I shouldn't be judging who's going to get into heaven and who isn't going to heaven. That message is what I want you to take away today. That there is hope, that change can come, that more parents will be joining this beautiful mother here who embraced her son. And one person at a time, as we share our stories, and as we live in the light of the love of God, people, parents, friends, neighbors, people are going to be looking at you and seeing a child of God, and they will have no choice but to call you by that name, child of God. No labels, no negativity. Today, we stand here in 2014. We're observing another Transgender Day of Remembrance. Yes, we are. It's a sober day. But there's also hope. Hope. Legislation is changing. Children can now use the restrooms in certain states, including California, that go with their gender identity. Locker room laws are changing. Laws are changing. And as a minister, I'll tell you what really got me going. When the Pope made a declaration for the first time in the history of the world, and I've been following the Pope, because the Pope and the Catholic Church are quoted very heavily in my country. They're like the authority on everything. You know? They're quoted all the time. When they passed an anti-gay, anti-LGBT law earlier on in the year, they quoted the Pope. They always do that. And now, here came Pope Francis, inspired by the love of God, to say, there is a place for God's LGBT children. We have to look at this again. Yes, the bishops tried to put it down, but we cannot undermine the significance on a religious part of a pope saying that. That lets me know that change is coming, not just in legislation, but in religion. It is only a matter of time before we will not have this day. We will have a Transgender Celebration Day. It is only a matter of time before the suicides stop. It is only a matter of time before change comes like a wave and wipes all of our tears away, leads us to smile and laugh and dance and praise God. We will say, once upon a time we had Transgender Day of Remembrance. I believe that day is coming. And today, I want to task everyone who is in here. I want to task you to make a promise with me to those that we have lost. Please repeat after me. I promise that I will never forget you, and that I will always raise my voice against injustice. I will raise my voice until there's so much awareness that the change happens today. And I pray for strength to keep this promise in Jesus' name. Amen. I would like to share a song called My Sun Will Shine Again and dedicate it to all those who have passed. Those who passed from trans hate, LGBT hate, those who may have been your source of support in life. And I'm telling you, as LGBT people, those sources of support are so valuable to us. They're so far and in between sometimes that when we lose them for whatever reason, it's such a huge loss. When I wrote this song, it was originally written for my cousin, Adam. Ever since we were really young, I was 6, he was 7, Adam was the one person in homophobic Africa that loved me regardless. Adam embraced me with no question. We spent every vacation together. We did everything together. When we eventually got privileged enough to go to London to pursue our education, Adam went to me to my first gay club. I mean, you just can't imagine a child, that's gone through all this, getting to London. I was loose. I was like just, a child in Disneyland. There's gay clubs and you can be free. And I'm like, cuz you're going to the gay club, dude. He said, okay. He wore a tank top. We went to the gay club. And from then, he always went with me. We would go there and dance to techno music. He hated techno. He only liked hip hop. But he was supporting me, We had a great time. When I said I was going to transition, it was Adam who jumped on that bandwagon, cause do what you need to do. You have to be yourself, and he used the word that we shouldn't use in here that starts with an F. Those who don't support you. I support you. Do it. When I was going to get married, I told him, this was during the transition. Adam said, nobody else has to come. I'm taking time off work. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be your best man. I'm going to be at the wedding. And I was waiting for Adam to come. Even way back in England when the confrontation happened and I was going to be taken home to be in the arranged marriage, Adam was right there. He just looked at me. I was so devastated. I lay in bed. I missed classes for like a week. I was thinking, how am I going to get away? They're planning to take me home to Nigeria. How am I going to get away? And I was laying there. And Adam, at the time I used to drink a lot. Now I've been sober because of the abuse issues. I've been sober from alcohol for 7 years. I've been sober from cocaine and all drugs for 9 years. But at the time, thank you. Thank you, glory to God. But at the time, I was drinking. I didn't even think I had a problem. So Adam came in, he saw me, I told him what happened, and he just looked at the empty bottles on the floor. He's like, all right, I'll be right back. He went to the liquor store, brought me a bunch more alcohol to drink at the time. And then we sat there, over drinks, like, what are we going to do? We have to do something. And he's like, well, go talk to the school. Maybe they can find a way to help you. And I went and spoke to the school, and that's how they got the visa. So the point is, Adam was always there. Always there. On June 3rd, 2012, the wedding was going to be later on, the next year. But on June 3rd, 2012, Adam boarded a flight to go from one city. It was only an hour away, like the distance from LA to San Francisco. 3 minutes to the flight landing, there was total engine failure. Both engines on the plane stopped. The plane crashed into buildings, killing people on the ground. It started to burn. Because of the lack of rapid emergency in Africa, they couldn't get them out. People burnt. They burnt to the point that they were unrecognizable. DNA testing had to be used to identify him. I wrote this song for him then, but couldn't record it till 2014 because of the emotion. And this is what I mean. The people who supported us all along, they're so far and in between. We have to embrace them. But today, now that you know the significance of this song, I want you to see that I want to share it with each and every one of you here. I want to share Adam's song with everyone who has passed. I want to share Adam's song with you who lost your partner. I want to share it with everyone who has ever experienced discrimination or pain for being who they are, or just that feeling. Because we are people of faith, as sad and sober as this song is, and as sad and sober as this day is, one thing that we believe is that we will see our loved ones again. I believe that I will see Adam again. I believe that every single person who passed, the pain is gone now. I believe they are resting in the light of love, surrounded by angels, feeling the peace of the joy, the peace, the joy, everything that has to do with being in the presence of God, of the light. So we will remember, but we will also celebrate. Celebrate their lives, celebrate the fact that we know we will see them again, and it will be in a magnificent way. So I will now sing this song called My Sun Will Shine Again. If you catch some of the chorus, it's very repetitive. Just join in. There we go. So I share this song with you, that our sun will shine again. Those that we have lost, we wish you peace on your journey until we see you on that fateful, glorious day. Let's get happy. There is still good news in all of this darkness.
Yes, I will see you again.
Come on, join me now. Let's say it together.
We'll see you again. Yes, I will see you again. We'll see you again.
Think about that loved one. Come on.
Yes, I will see you again. Sunshine again. We'll see you again. I'll see you someday. Yes, I will stay. We'll see you again. I'll see you again. Sunshine again. We'll see you again. I'll see you someday. Yes, I will stay. We'll see you again. I'll see you again.
One more time.
My sunshine again. We'll see you again. I'll see you someday. Yes, it'll be a glorious day. We'll see you again. When I see you again.
Hallelujah. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming. And I'm not good at endings, yeah. so okay, bye. Just go in peace. Thank you for coming.